36 with double-digit points in a standard league. So think about this. Double-digit points is basically, if you're in a standard league, 40 yards and a touchdown is a 10-point fantasy day. He's only had 10 of those in his past 36 games. That stretches over 2 seasons. That's 2 seasons. It's 2013, 2014, and the first 4 games of this year. He's only had 10 games during that entire stretch with 10 or more points. That's not good. So just keep that stuff in mind, guys. I think Vincent Jackson, again, and again, in those games where he does those 10 games, I bet his numbers are gigantic because he's blowing it away. He's getting 10 catches for 147 yards, and scoring touchdowns too, typically. He didn't do that this past week, but look, in a lot of these games, again, with Vincent Jackson, it's boom or bust. So he's not a great week-to-week fantasy player. He's more of a daily type of player. If you can acquire him for a cheap price on a weekly format, or in a daily format, where you're on DraftKings or something like that, and you see the type of matchup like he had this past week against Carolina, and you can take advantage of that. That's what you want to do with Vincent Jackson. You don't want to roll him out there every single week in your regular yearly commissioner-style fantasy league because he just doesn't produce those consistent numbers. So again, I'm looking to sell off Vincent Jackson. Now, another guy I'm actually looking to buy is Antonio Gates, tight end, San Diego Chargers, coming off of a 4-game suspension. He's going to be back this week. We haven't seen him play yet this season, but quietly, Antonio Gates was the number 2 fantasy tight end in 2014. He's a huge red zone threat still. Obviously, he doesn't have the speed that he did early in his career, but tight ends are very, very weak this season. We've seen a couple of guys. We've seen Travis Kelce, Greg, and touchdowns from the tight end position are very, very valuable because most of these guys don't score a lot of them. Maybe they get 5 on the year, 6 on the year, and that's a good number for a fantasy tight end. But you look at Antonio Gates, and double-digit touchdowns in the final 12 games of the season are not out of the question. Now, I wouldn't necessarily expect that, but it could happen. We could definitely see Antonio Gates be up there in second place through the remainder of the fantasy season in terms of tight end scoring. We haven't really seen the guys like Travis Kelce and Greg Olsen and frankly Jimmy Graham put up huge numbers yet. So Gates could certainly be up there in that conversation through